Diamond is Unbreakable is a part in JoJo which is full to the brim with some of the strangest characters and places within the series, from an Italian restaurant located outside of a graveyard, to a famous couple's meeting spot which is actually just a person forcibly converted into a rock, and even a weird mass hermit acrobat who lives on a transmission tower. The reason the things here are so strange is that Araki wanted to craft Morioh around the idea of a neighborhood full of mysteries and allow the reader to learn the history behind the urban legends that developed there. But there was one mystery that he created with no intention of answering the origins of, and this being the abnormal audio-allergic alien attempting anthropogenic assimilation, Mikitaka Hazekura, or as he's known in his home planet, New Mikitaka Nishi. Mikitaka Hazekura is a supporting character that appears for the most part within the I Am an Alien and Let's Live on a Transmission Tower arcs of Diamond Is Not Crash, working to maintain his newly acquired friendship with Josuke and Okuyasu and aid in their actions. Now, what makes Mikitaka interesting is how he is a self-proclaimed exo-atmospheric citizen, also known as an alien, who is a licensed intergalactic pilot who came to Earth to observe the inhabitants and determine if the planet was fit for habitation, as his original planet was destroyed. And Araki really baked a lot of alien symbology into Mikitaka's design, really hammering home the idea for what he was going for. So with that in mind, let's examine both the meaning behind his name and design. Starting first with his design, as Mikitaka has a lot of extraterrestrial or alien symbology going on with him. First, of course, we have his outfit, which contains a variety of pins and accessories, all with a different meaning, like his year pin, which is a stylized version of Saturn, the most iconic looking planet in our solar system and the most standout. Along with this, you also have a flying saucer-shaped UFO pin on both the top and bottom of his outfit, which of course, thanks to old eyewitness testimonies and pop culture media, became the most iconic shape of an alien spaceship. Then next you have the star-shaped pins with the letter ET engraved on them, which is obviously playing into the term extraterrestrial, which was made famous by Steven Spielberg in his movie E.T. Then of course finally you have the middle design, which is a resting infinity sign with the sun and the moon within them, likely in reference to a solar day. But beyond his outfit, Mikitaka also seems to be physically designed after one of the most famous alien designs outside of the Little Greys, that being the Nordic aliens, made famous by David Skell's novels. These were commonly humanoid-looking aliens who were roughly 6 to 7 feet tall, with platinum blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair, youthful skin, which fits Mikitaka's physical description quite well. It's also helped by the fact that the UFO on Mikitaka's outfit fits the descriptor of most UFOs seen piloted by Nordic aliens, though one weird portion of his design is his nose ring and chain, which doesn't actually seem to be connected to any alien thing specifically, but more an alien concept to Japan itself, as body piercings are heavily frowned upon and viewed as weird or rebellious in nature, though in some parts of the world the nose ring can symbolize marriage, or be the equivalent of a wedding ring. Oh god, Mikitaka got divorced. Oh, I hope he kept the spaceship in the divorce. Next we have Mikitaka's name, or well, his Earth name, as it fits his character very well. Starting first with Mikitaka's family name, Hazekura, which is seemingly in reference to Hasekura Tsunaga, a samurai and retainer of Date Masamune, the daimyo of Sendai, which is the real-life equivalent to Morioh, as Araki based a lot of the fictional town off of his hometown to create a connection there. But on top of that, Hasekura also was the head of the Japanese embassy and traveled all over the world as an ambassador for Japan, specifically making deals with the Americas and Spain for a good time. When he traveled, he also took on a different name of Philip Francis Faxenker, in a way kinda similar to how Mikitaka took on an Earth-specific name when he traveled to the planet, as outside trade was still a strange and alien concept for Japan, and only some really adapted to it quite well. And then you have his given name, Mikitaka, which when broken down is comprised of the characters that basically mean unraised, which tends to be in reference to specifically food, with unraised bread being flatbread that hasn't gone through the leaven process, which seems to be a little weird, but is likely in reference to the compressed nature of space food and how astronauts aren't allowed to bring regular bread but unleavened bread onto the shuttle like tortillas. Though these two names are merely his chosen names, as Mikitaka's real name is New Mikitaka Nishi, which means Absolutely nothing. It's basically chunni gibberish, meant to seem alien, which of course doesn't come just magically from nowhere. It's based on his name, Mikitaka. Though another aspect of his character that makes him appear a little alien is his ability, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Earth, Wind, and Fire is in a strange situation due to Mikitaka's unconfirmed origins, as it is unclear if it's a stand ability or just a natural aspect of his species. If you want to see my full stance on this, I have already made a video covering my take on Mikitaka's origins. And while that video contains some inaccuracies, I still hold firm in my conclusion. Though, for simplicity's sake, I will just be referring to it as Mikitaka's ability. What Earth, Wind, and Fire does is it allows its user to shapeshift or transform into any object or object it has seen, even being able to match their specific size if necessary. And these objects seem to have a supernatural aspect to them in some way, like being sneakers that allow you to jump extremely far distances by combining together yours and Mikitaka's own physical strength, and then of course he just allows you to walk up walls because screw it. Or you have him turning into dice that always come up with the best result unless specifically asked not to. It's also fair to assume that he can regrow parts of his body with this ability, going off the fact that his fingers, which were converted into ice cream, were offered up as food to Josuke and Okuyasu without Mikitaka making any plans to get them back. Though this ability does come with its own set of unique drawbacks, starting first with the fact that Mikitaka can't become complex tools or devices with too many moving parts. Next, Mikitaka cannot replicate people, as he views most humans as looking the same, kinda like how humans view monkeys in a sense, where getting the exact details isn't really possible. Along with this, he also needs to know the make and size of an object in order to replicate it correctly, so having a physical reference to go off is much more helpful than a picture, or else he may inaccurately represent the height, weight, or properties of that object. Though most importantly, Mikitaka still maintains his biological aspects when transformed, so he can still be injured like normal or succumb to physical weaknesses like dizziness if shaken too much. And these physical weaknesses can affect his concentration, which in turn affects the accuracy of his transformation. Though one thing that can really drive a nail right through his disguise is loud noises such as fire trucks, which instills a violent allergic reaction within him. And this may in fact be a reference to the War of the Worlds radio broadcast, which Martians invaded Earth and nearly conquered it, but died due to pathogens within the air. Something mundane to Earthlings was extremely toxic or dangerous to aliens. Now, Mikitaka's ability's name, Earth, Wind, and Fire, comes directly from the American R&B pop band formed in 1969, Earth, Wind, and Fire, or EWF. The band itself was given its name based on its founder, Maurice White's own astrological sign, Sagittarius, which had a primary spiritual element of fire and a seasonal quality of air and earth, hence why the band's name omits the fourth classical element, water. And Earth, Wind, and Fire's connection to the astrological signs is something that reigned through in a lot of their work, especially their album art, which depicts them all over the place. Along with this, the band also had a lot of alien imagery throughout a lot of their work, especially in music videos like Let's Groove Tonight, which featured members singing and dancing in spaceman outfits among the stars. Or the album cover for All in All, featuring pyramids launching rockets into space, which is likely an influence for why they were selected to identify the self-made alien Mikitaka. Along with this, the benevolent and spiritual foundation behind Maurice's own lifestyle is very similar to that of the reported mission of the Nordic aliens that Mikitaka takes major influence from. And speaking of his benevolence, overall, Mikitaka is a rather peaceful individual, who, while strange and assumedly unfamiliar with human traditions and habits, appears to be doing exactly as he claims. He came to Earth to examine the inhabitants and determine whether or not it's okay for his people to come to the planet themselves. He also is a proponent of fairness, wanting to pay back any kind gesture with one of his own, though Mikitaka doesn't seem to be opposed to stepping in and assisting his perceived friends if the time calls for it. And he's even willing to sacrifice the safety of his own life to ensure that his friends are okay. And this seems to stem from Mikitaka's benevolent desire to help and be praised for helping, which is, unsurprisingly, a similar mindset held by the Nordic aliens. Mikitaka is a character who is executed exactly as he needs to, and perfectly matches his design's intention, as Araki always intended to challenge the reader on debating on whether or not he was really an alien. And given that there are still people discussing whether or not he is, proves he did his job perfectly. And if you want to see me discuss it a little bit more in depth, I recommend checking out that video I mentioned earlier. But at the end of the day, in a world where vampires, zombies, immortal demigods, cyborgs, and stands can all exist, honestly, aliens aren't all that strange. Even Araki himself said, while crazy, They're just barely acceptable enough to be real in the world of JoJo. So maybe they really are out there. But with that in mind, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did and you want to support me and my channel and make sure that I can make more videos like this in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/ManyNotTheBadGuy. And if you want to see a series that is completely out of this world, nearly alien to most, buy a copy of Shimonetta at buyshimonetta.com.